Hi, welcome to our training today on effective classroom management for middle and high school students. My name is Janine and I'm a board certified behavior analyst with Building Connections Behavioral Health Inc. I've been working in the field for 20 plus years and I'm excited to share my experience and collaboration with teachers for over the last 20 years with you. I love collaborating with teachers to create a positive and effective learning environment, which is critical for enhancing students' experiences and outcomes. To do that, we must go backwards and remember ourselves when we were between the ages of 12 and 18. What did our emotional regulation look like and how did we act, both in and out of the classroom? We were all full of energy. The key to being an effective high school and middle school teacher is to maintain students' attention for more than just a few seconds. You have to believe that this is possible, and to do that, it requires faith and trust. Teachers quickly learn that that is one of their biggest challenges of the year. If you employ a strict approach to maintaining and achieving compliance, you may have that temporarily, but it will lead to ill will and passive disobedience over time. An effective teacher must create an environment that is positive and ready for learning. This will enhance student experiences and their outcomes. One of the ways to do that is incorporate relationship building strategies into your teaching approach. You can significantly improve the overall classroom dynamic by just including a few key elements. I'm going to share these elements with you today to help you build stronger connections with your students. We must remember that middle and high school students are at a unique developmental stage. They're bridging from childhood to adulthood, and effective classroom behavior management is critical for ages or grades 6 through 12. As students undergo physical, social, emotional, and intellectual changes during this period, they strive to define themselves individually and in relations to others. They begin to question adults' roles in their lives, and peers gain much more importance and what their peers feel and think. As they transition from middle to high school, academic demands increase significantly. This requires them to adapt to new teachers, new learning routines, and expectations. In order to be successful, they must stay organized, manage their time between classes, and handle multiple responsibilities and assignments. All of these new responsibilities creates challenge and stress for these students, and it is our job as educators to teach them how to better manage all of these things in their lives. We must start relationship building. By doing this, we must build rapport with our students. This is one of the most beneficial and impactful actions you can do to enhance your overall classroom experience. When students trust you and feel connected, they have stronger learning outcomes. It's important to establish connections early. This is critical. On the first day of school, emphasize the importance of your course, but also build relationships instead of just solely reviewing your syllabus. On the first day of school and throughout the year, exhibit warmth towards your students by smiling and maintaining an open body language. Personal acknowledgement. Using things such as the student's name when addressing them recognizes their identity and makes them feel valued. They have now become more than just a number in your classroom, but a person. And that at this age is very important for them. When you're teaching and telling stories, share relevant things from your life that connect them to the lessons and make learning more relatable and engaging. Express your enthusiasm and passion for teaching through these personal stories. Take the time to get to know your students. Be mindful of the unique challenges of middle and high school students face. This includes peer pressure and identity development. You must create these things in your classroom to create a supportive classroom environment. As students become more independent in middle and high school, they need to learn how to set personal boundaries and make responsible decisions. Personal emotional learning activities can help middle and high school students develop critical learning and decision making skills. Discussing social situations before they occur aids your students in making healthy choices. Ask them questions that encourage the student to think critically about social scenarios, such as what can you do if your friend asks you to go get pizza instead of doing your big project that you have due tomorrow? Create a supportive environment for self reflection is key. Students can explain their choices and their reasoning for making those choices. They can also foresee the consequences that those initial choices might have that they hadn't considered before. Another thing that you have to do is deal with the wiggles and the chatter. There is tons of chatter in middle school and high school. But if you think about it, you think about when you're learning with others, as adults, we also have lots of chatter at times. In these wiggly moments, what can teachers do when their students are too young to think like adults but are starving to learn? This is the question that faces every middle and high school teacher. Here are some teacher tested tips for educators. Get your students physical. Teachers can incorporate brain breaks. Yep, let's bring that back from elementary school for students. We can play games such as Would You Rather, but adjust the questions to an age appropriate question or to a learning topic. So you could take two things in history and ask, Would you rather do A or would you rather do B? Would you have rather stayed in England or would you want to ride the Mayflower over to the United States? Questions like that get them thinking, keep their brain engaged, but also change things up a little bit. Now they might need to get up, and so maybe you adjust Simon Says in your room. So instead of just the regular Simon Says, you can say, Simon says, go. But instead of adding touch nose, touch this, you can say, use more complex questions. For example, if for a history lesson, label areas in your room and say, Simon says, go to the year the Berlin Wall was built. The students will need to find the area that is labeled 1961. You can use charades as well. Use charades as a learning tool to enhance vocabulary through nonverbal communication. This boosts creativity and encourages critical thinking skills. It can be particularly effective for concepts like actions, objects, or ideas that can easily be acted out. Role playing, these activities also can be engaging for older students, giving each student a role, but tell them that they've lost their voice and have to figure out a way to get their answers that they need. For instance, instruct the students to find a pharmacy without speaking and ask the students where that might be. These small activities can create lasting memories for your students and bring your lesson home to them, making it something that they'll remember forever. Use office hours. Maximize the use of office hours by offering them in various locations or hold virtual sessions. Providing students with flexible options to connect with you outside of class is going to be important. Students may not be comfortable asking you questions in front of their peers, and having these times that they can address you in a way that they feel safe will be important for their learning and let them know that your learning is important to them. Employing these relationship building skills and tips can help build a bond with your students that help them feel safe in the classroom, respected, and give them a want to be lifelong learners. Our preteens and teenagers need help learning social emotional skills. This is not something that they're born with or something that they're learning throughout natural engagement. We must teach these skills if we want to help them improve. Teaching social emotional skills Here are some key components that you must think about. Teach the students self-awareness. Help students identify and label their emotions, understand their strengths and weaknesses, and recognize how their actions impact others. You win if you get them to think about what the others are thinking when they're engaging in these behaviors, because most often they're only thinking of how the world affects them. Self-management is going to be a lifelong tool that they need to learn. Self-management includes providing strategies for maintaining stress and emotional regulations for their emotions, setting goals, and making healthy choices. These are all things that they will use throughout their lifetime and pass on to their children. Social awareness. Foster empathy by encouraging students to see things from others' perspectives and understand different social cues. They have a hard time understanding that their reactions and actions mean something as well as others. And not always do their text mean what they think it does. Both the receiver and the sender may be getting a different message from that. Relationship skills. Think about where your relationship skills were when you were in middle school and high school. They aren't always very good. A middle schooler and high schooler need to practice being active listeners. They often only hear one or two words and make assumptions. This often causes conflicts in their life. So teaching conflict resolution in an appropriate, healthy manner is going to be a lifelong skill that they can use. Teach them to work cooperatively with others and think about what others need, not just themselves. Assertiveness. They need to learn assertive communication and how to advocate for themselves. Nobody else is going to be advocating for them in middle and high school and life. They need to be their own advocate and communicate what they need by being assertive. Responsible decision making. There are so many teens that get in trouble because they do not know how to make responsible decisions. I often say a lot of kids are a tell me, show me, do over just tell me, but we need to teach them that their actions have consequences and they need to think about their decisions before they make them. Think those things through. Guide students in considering those consequences and making ethical choices for themselves that are both safe and healthy. Sometimes students need much more individualized help in learning social emotional skills. We need to individualize our support. Offer additional support to students struggling with social and emotional challenges through counseling or mentor programs. Be an advocate for them and help the learning community know which of these students need extra support. Address bullying. Implement clear anti-bullying policies and educate students on appropriate behaviors. Most importantly, make sure that you implement those strategies and plans that you have for anti-bullying. Be the children's cheerleader when it comes to bullying. Family. It's important to engage the family members and have partner with those parents to reinforce social emotional learning at home and let the parents know how they're doing at school. Don't assume that parents know what's happening in the peer relationship because there may be a totally different front at home and parents are unaware of what their sweet children are doing in the school environment or with their peers. Let's be real. I have a fifth grader at home, and when I drop my child off at school, his school is a K-12 school. And I have watched middle school and high school parents carrying both the backpack and the umbrellas for their children. We need to teach our children independence and executive functioning skills for them to be successful adults and ready to work in the adult environment and the world. These skills are critical as students are expected to play more significant roles in managing their learning and relationship building. These demands require executive functioning skills, which encompass cognitive skills used to organize behavior towards their personal and academic goals. These skills include attention, task responsibility, problem solving, time management, and planning. Middle and high schoolers present a steep learning curve for many of these students in executive functioning, particularly those with silent disabilities. However, we can teach, practice, and support the development of these skills and offer them a chance to be successful in the future. It is important to note that executive functioning success will not look the same for every individual. Each person has their unique profile. The goal is to provide learners with tools to empower them for building the skills that work best for them. Explicitly teaching executive functioning skills can help a student develop essential abilities. This involves dedicating time to discuss these skills, such as planning, organization, task initiation, and time management. You're going to want to take time out of your academic lessons to teach them how to plan and execute a task or maybe a big project. Organization. How are you going to organize all of your 7 classes as well as the projects in which you get assigned, and how are you going to organize that in a way that you do it? Task initiation. Don't let them get to a point where they're overwhelmed and they can't initiate a task, or that their social lives are so important that they don't begin a task on time. Which brings us to time management. How can they most effectively manage their time so they're not always waiting for the last minute and rushing to do something feeling stressed out? Review strategies and support for each of these skills, providing opportunities for practice. After your initial teaching of these executive functioning skills, continue to integrate these skills throughout your curriculum. This is critical to develop them in all aspects of learning. Highlight them, model them, practice, and discuss these skills with the content that you are teaching. This can be an effective way to really hone in on those executive functioning skills. An example of this might be, before starting group or independent assignment, have the students estimate the time required to complete this. This will teach them time management. Have them watch the clock and see how closely they were to guessing the time correctly. You can use a KWL chart on the board and have the students share what they know or want to know about learning a new topic. After learning about this topic, have the students reflect on how the new information has influenced their thinking or flexibility. Incorporating executive functioning skills into daily routines can also be beneficial. Have morning check-ins. Morning check-ins can start the day with a brief activity where students share how they're feeling, getting connected with where their emotional state is and what they can do to regulate themselves to a better emotional state if they're too happy or too sad. Provide a calm down corner. Designate a space in your room where students can retreat. Teach mindful activities such as breathing techniques and meditation. Also promote self-regulation. Allow your kids to go back to that calming area on their own and engage in tasks that will bring them to a more regulated state. Teach your students how to use reflective journaling. Reflective journaling can encourage students to express their thoughts. Have a space in your classroom set aside where they can retreat to do reflective writing. Learners can sit there independently if they're having a difficult day and provide an opportunity to reset. Providing these supports and teaching executive functioning skills can significantly enhance students' ability to manage their learning and relationships effectively. Have you ever noticed at this age that peers rule their world and we are just kind of characters in that world? This can make kids happy or sad depending on how the peers are reacting to them. Encourage peer interaction by setting time aside during the class for students to engage in one another, fostering a sense of community. Promote these interactions both in person and through participating in these interactions yourself. Set up your classroom in a way that encourages cooperative seating arrangements. That doesn't mean allowing your students to sit where they want and leaving certain students out. It means grouping your desks together where the students that you choose to work together will be working together. This will be very dependent on the size of your classroom on how you can create this cooperative seating. Cooperative seating aids in classroom management by facilitating group collaborations. Students will have the opportunity to collaborate, communicate with their partners, and assist one another. Also, building relationships they may not have built if you had not offered these opportunities for them to work together. But there's also a trick and a benefit for you. You can use these different seating arrangements to group kids by their learning style or abilities. So you're able to sit the kids varying by abilities so they can work together. It is critical, though, to set high and clear expectations for appropriate positive collaboration among all learners. While students may occasionally engage in conversation similar to an adult during staff meetings, the advantages of cooperative seating outweigh those moments. Include collaborative learning activities such as group projects that make them cooperate and work effectively together. Now, as teachers, you're going to have to check in on these group projects and make sure that some of your students aren't making other of your students do all of the work. This is going to take mindfulness on your part to check in regularly to see what parts each student is doing and how they are working together to complete their final project. Teaching your students to be effective team members is going to not only help them throughout their educational career, but also in the working environment. As teachers, we know we have to be positive role models for our students, but we don't always think about what this means to model positive behavior. Positive behavior modeling is when you model the behaviors that you expect for your students. So modeling appropriate behavior by demonstrating actions such as active and respectful communication, for example, sets a clear example for your students. This helps establish standards in classroom interaction. Demonstrating desired behaviors such as putting your phone away when class starts instead of texting home really quick reinforces the behaviors you wish to see in your classroom. You can explain to your students what you're doing at the beginning. You can say, oh, the bell rang. I'm going to go ahead and put my phone in my bag until the bell rings again. And that way, students will not only see that the rules apply to you as well as them, and they are going to be much more willing to engage in those behaviors that you want to see in your classroom if they see you doing it as well. No, there are so many times where I have walked into a classroom and had a teacher that has a very strong no electronics rule and yet have their phone out on their desk where they're texting home really quick about dinner or checking on their kids. Make sure that you set the example for your students, put those phones away, and model all of the behaviors in your classroom that you want to see. That means the respectful way you talk to your students, asking questions, being part of discussions, and really showing them and modeling how to be the human that they're going to grow into. Set time in your class to have regular check-ins. Have regular check-ins with your students instead of waiting till the end of the semester to conduct surveys about how things are going, what the children feel about the learning environment or what they're learning. Is there anything that you can add to their learning environment that will enhance their learning styles? This shows your students that you are committed to their learning and you're part of their journey. You're actively present for your students and engaging. This will encourage your students to increase their engagement and be better learners in your class. While you do have the transitions between class to class that often incorporate movement, think about transitions that you can do within your classroom to get your kids up and moving and transitioning from one idea to the next. This can help them stimulate themselves both physically and mentally if they get up, stand up, and stretch, or participate in a brief physical activity before moving on to the next task or the assignment at hand. You can even incorporate this right after passing period to help calm your students down from whatever went on with their peers out in the classroom unstructured environment. It can take them from that unstructured moment and help them be ready and regulated for your structure of the classroom. This will keep your classroom much more structured and an easier environment for them and you to be successful in. Remember that high school and middle school students no longer have those recesses. They may have one long lunch, but they're often sitting for 5 to 6 hours a day, which can be tough for them. Giving them these regular breaks can help them tackle tough assignments and reduce stress, increase their blood flow to the brain, and keep their minds sharp and active. If space allows, turn on some music and let the students walk around to the rhythm, or deliberately rehearse things throughout the day and how to transition from one activity to the next. Practicing transitions will help your classroom minimize disruptive behaviors during class as you transition from one topic or one subject to another. As our students get older, we start to think that they can think more abstractly. However, concrete teaching is much easier for teens and preteens. Preteens and teens experience significant brain development. Most students are still very concrete thinkers. They often cannot understand intangible concepts. Therefore, providing concrete examples during instruction will make teaching more efficient. If you are able to teach something as abstract, explain it in very concrete terms or as concrete as possible to help your students better understand what you're doing or teaching. Use object lessons as they can be a way to make abstract lessons more concrete. Consider ways you can teach a concept through an object lesson. You can also check online. There's many object lessons online. Teachers want to help each other. You guys are posting things all of the time. Go ahead and utilize these experiences and what other teachers have. Share and collaborate with other teachers to bring those object lessons in and help you make your abstract concepts come to life. Be flexible. Flexibility with middle school and high school in classroom management is critical to your success. Being adaptable allows you to meet students where they are, being flexible and meeting their daily needs. One key concept in flexible teaching is realizing that each of our students have different backgrounds, and understanding each of their unique backgrounds will be important. Recognizing that your students are dealing with different situations or scenarios will help you be more flexible and understanding to their learning needs in the moment. Flexibility also lets you change your learning style to better meet the learning styles of your learners. Remember, everybody learns differently, and you will need to have a flexible learning style in order to help reach all of your students. Celebrate your students' success. Everybody wants to be celebrated and recognized. We want to feel successful both at work. Middle school and high school students are no exception to this rule. And if you celebrate their small victories, your students will be more likely to want to accomplish and show you what they're made of and what their full potential is. By doing this, you can help inspire your students to be deeper learners and be the best person that they can be. The choice is not only theirs, but the choice is yours every day. Middle and high school students don't want to be told what to do anymore. They didn't really as younger students either, but they're less likely to follow your lead if they feel like you are making demands of them. Provide student choice. You can provide students with limited options within the classroom that fosters a sense of control and engage in by engaging and giving them choices. Those students feel like they're in control and can enhance the powers that they have. This enhances your ability to motivate your students. You can offer really small choices, such as, do you want to use a pen or a pencil? Do you want to type it or write it? These choices can help your students be more willing to follow your overall direction. Other things that you can do is sit with your students and have a class meeting. Talk about big projects that you have coming up. With those projects, ask them how they want to complete them. Do they want to write a paper or maybe do a project? Also, have them include reasonable due dates. This does not mean you will say to your students, when should this be due? Because you know what they're going to say? The first day of summer. What you want to do is give them maybe 3 options and have the class vote on what day that project's going to be due, because this will help your students better feel better connected to your assignment and also think about the other things that they have when they're voting. And so maybe this will prevent 3 major projects due on the same day because you don't know what Janice next door is doing and assigning, but your students do know what's coming up in their assignments and they can better manage their time, feel like they have some inclusion in choice of their learning. Giving them the power of their learning will help you have a more successful classroom. Spark your learners' curiosity. Nobody wants to go sit in a classroom and be lectured at. You can spark the curiosity of both middle and high school students by asking open-ended questions. Incorporate real-world applications. Use hands-on activities. Present surprising facts, or even better, ask them to find surprising facts to share to the class, and maybe offer extra credit to those that bring in those extra facts that engage more learning. I promise you that if that student is going to go out and find a fact that they find interesting, that they're excited to bring back to class, they're going to remember that fact in the future and be able to share it in other conversations. Who knows? Maybe it'll be even an answer to a Jeopardy question. Have your classroom be a safe place for your learners. Let them explore and connect to their learning interests. Find ways for your students to make connections and make learning real and fun. Connect learning to students' interests. Allow for student-led investigations. These strategies make learning engaging, relevant, interactive. Key strategies for sparking curiosity include asking why and what if questions to encourage critical thinking. Present thought-provoking scenarios and real-world problems that relate to the subject matter. Prompt students to seek solutions. Incorporate hands-on activities like experiments, seminars, or building projects, art activities, and engaging the students actively. Use visuals and multimedia, such as videos, images, and interactive presentations to capture the attention and stimulate curiosity. When you facilitate student-led investigations by giving students an opportunity to choose a topic they are curious about and design their own research project. Share surprising facts and anecdotes that require interest. Encourage further exploration. Create a classroom environment students feel comfortable asking questions without fear of judgment. Don't judge your students when they bring you a question. Every question has a meaning and every question needs to be validated. Relate classroom topics to current events or popular media to make learning feel timely and relevant. Important considerations. Tailor different interests by recognizing that students have diverse interests and incorporate a variety of topics into and learning styles. Balance structure with exploration by providing clear learning objectives while allowing space for students to pursue their own curiosities within a lesson framework. Acknowledge and praise students for asking questions. Personalize communication. Give tailored feedback on assignments through emails and ensure communication is clear and personalized, reinforcing individual attention that each student receives and make them feel like a person, not just a number in your classroom. Many teachers forget that some of our students still don't know how to be learners. We need to teach our students how to be learners, lifelong learners. Middle and high school students may still need to learn what the expectations mean and look like. So take some time at the beginning of the year to teach your students what it means to be academically engaged, what respectful behavior looks like in the classroom, and how to manage their behavior in the classroom. And positive participation will pay off in the long term. Teach these core expectations, and academic engagement will come with such as academic engagement, such as telling your teachers what you expect and what materials you expect to have ready every day for learning. Write those learning expectations on the board. So when they walk into the classroom, they can see which materials you expect to have out on the desk and ready for learning that day. Our students don't know how to be active listeners during lectures. In fact, many adults also lack these abilities and often go off into their own space in their mind and daydream. Add discussion questions, ask questions that need clarifying, and ask them also to ask you questions about what you taught or what you assigned. Teach your students what it would look like to be a group learner and what your expectations of each member of the group are. Break down tasks for each group assignment and have them turn in their work with everybody's participation included and which parts they actively took place and part of, so that they learn how to be a better part of a group and an active member of a community. Teach the students how to positively participate by sharing ideas and contributing to class discussions. Offer constructive feedback to their peers. Be open to new ideas and perspectives. Celebrate all of the successes of all of their classmates. While you're building relationships with your students, take time to get to know each of your students. This allows educators to understand their students' individual needs and tailor interventions according to their needs. Some kids might need interventions, which includes giving them classwork that is higher than the work assigned, while some students may require remediation. Both of these will keep your students actively engaged, but you'll only know this by building a relationship with them so that you can learn their individual needs. Tailoring interventions accordingly will help create a more positive and supportive classroom environment. You can also ask them about their individual likes and dislikes. So I have a student in my class who has some behavioral emotions regulation issues, and I can check in with him daily by having small basketball tips in my brain because he loves basketball. I actually don't like basketball or know anything about it, but I can do a really quick Google search and find out what the score is on the latest game, or if there's been any big trades or news to talk about. Knowing these key facts also help them know that you care about them and build a stronger relationship. I also share my interests with the students, so I really like baseball, and I'll share how I am feeling about different things within trades, with the A's moving, and different aspects towards that as well. It gives us an active engagement and really helps him know that I care about him. And in those moments where he becomes dysregulated, I am more able to reach him and bring him back to baseline. Give and take respect. Adolescents are really in tune to whether adults are showing them respect or not. It's critical for our children to feel like they are respected, they matter, and their voice is heard on a day-to-day basis. In order for you as a teacher to get respect, you must also give respect to your students because they are more likely to show you respect and return the gesture if you are first giving them respect. If you see them as a person, they will then turn around and treat you more like a person. Take some time out in your classroom to ask their opinions and talk to them about what they like and how they show respect and how they feel respected as individuals. By taking some time in doing this, you will find that your students will become more responsive and engaged in your class. By teaching your students how they can show respect in school by actively listening and following the class rules. Tell them what you're looking for as far as class rules too. Behavior management class would not be complete without actually talking about behavior management styles. Use an empathetic approach when approaching behavior management for your middle and high school students. This entails acknowledging students' feelings while holding them accountable for their action. This balance requires understanding while maintaining discipline. Give positive messages and reinforcement. The strategy of giving a learner positive comments for each of their constructive, I usually do like a 3-to-1 ratio, sometimes more if I feel like a student needs more, like 4 positives to every negative. And sometimes it's really hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard sometimes, but you really look for the little things and let that child feel like they are seen and heard and respected as well as liked. This is especially helpful for our older students as they struggle with self-confidence at these ages. You want to highlight and celebrate their successes before you scold them for things that they're having difficulties doing, especially if it's a can't do versus a can do. You want to make sure that you teach them what you're looking for and show them by modeling what you expect so that it can become a can do and not a can't do. Remember that our kids do mask and they will pretend like they know how to act or behave or what you expect when they really don't know how to do that. If a student's having a hard time or difficult time focusing, you can ask them what's going on. This creates an approach that gives them space. So you can ask them, hey, I noticed that you're having a really difficult time today. Is there something I can do to help you? This gives them a time to think about it and a way to rephrase, where if you go up and you're like, hey, sit down, be quiet, you're being too loud, they're gonna come at you with that same energy. Some other positive spins on negative behavior approaches you can do is if you notice that a student is not completing assignments, you can simply ask them if they had challenges facing the assignment, what prevented them from finishing it, and how can you help support them in completing the assignment. This encourages your student to explain their difficulties and work collaboratively with you to find solutions, such as maybe modifying a deadline or adding additional support. If a peer is arguing with another peer, the teacher could facilitate a conversation between them by asking them to share their perspective and how the situation made each of them feel. Encourage them to work together towards a solution. Key elements of empathetic discipline include being an active listener, paying close attention to the student's words and their nonverbal cues to truly understand their perspective. You want to validate their emotions, acknowledge how the student is feeling without dismissing them, even if you do not agree with what their actions are. Perspective taking. Try to see the situation from the student's point of view and consider factors that might be contributing to their behavior. Collaborative problem solving. Work with the student to identify situations or solutions that address both their needs and classroom expectations. Separate behavior from the student. Focus on addressing specific behaviors without labeling the student negatively. Using nonverbal communication is a powerful tool for classroom management dynamics. Utilizing visual cues, gestures, and facial expressions to guide behavior can minimize and avoid public embarrassment for the students. Examples include making eye contact, showing engagement, and actively listening. Posture frames what you are saying and conveys your message. Tone of voice. How you teach is as important as what you teach. Body language. This conveys your emotion, your attitude, and your confidence. Foster student-led guided creations. Allow students to participate in creating classroom guidelines and rules. This fosters a sense of ownership and responsibility. Involving the students in the process is increasing the likelihood that they will adhere to those guidelines that they helped establish. Things that you can help your students work to and is set clear expectations. Focus on establishing positive, respectful environment and teach the students to recognize and identify expected behaviors in the classroom, such as actively participating in a lesson, following directions promptly, being respectful to peers and teachers, completing assignments on time, using appropriate language, raising their hands to speak, and contributing positively to classroom discussions. Once behaviors are established and agreed upon, have your students sign a contract. Display these contracts in an area that's visible. If possible, you might want to laminate them. Just saying. Provide regular feedback and be consistent. Offer positive reinforcements when expectations are followed and address issues promptly and privately. Enforce consequences fairly and consistently. For any violations, keep in mind minimal attention will help make it go quicker. Encourage students to help hold each other accountable for following the classroom expectations that they have set. This can promote positive social dynamics. Make sure that you also watch out for the kids that are being overly bossy and teach them how to change behavior with grace. One of the ways is to model that. Another one is to tell them what they can say instead of the way they're handling or saying it. Peer accountability can foster a sense of community and responsibility among these students. For recognition and reinforcement, consider using strength-based recognition in the classroom. This is a strategy where teachers identify and acknowledge students' individual strengths. This is positive reinforcement that aims to motivate and encourage positive behaviors rather than focus on areas where the student might be struggling. It involves highlighting what the student is doing well, and it will foster more positive, productive environment instead of solely reprimanding negative behaviors. Teachers actively seek out and praise students' positive contributions, such as their creativity, their leadership skills, helpfulness, or academic strengths. This approach includes understanding each child's unique strengths, allowing for recognition that feels meaningful and authentic. By acknowledging students' abilities, teachers can boost their self-esteem and motivate each of them for learning in the future. When students feel valued for their strengths, the overall classroom atmosphere becomes more supportive and collaborative. To implement strength-based recognitions, teachers can identify students' strengths through observation during classroom activities, self-reflection, or informal assessment. Provide specific praise instead of generic compliments. Integrate strengths into learning activities. Designate lessons that allow students to leverage their strengths, such as assign leadership roles to students with strong communication skills. An appropriate curriculum can be considered a classroom management strategy. Assigning work that is challenging for a student's abilities can prevent them from being successful in class and lead to more disruptive behaviors. By minimizing feelings of frustration, you will have a much more successful learning environment. Essentially, it helps manage the classroom by ensuring that students are engaging in work that they can be successful at. When students feel challenged but not overwhelmed by the work, they are more likely to stay focused and engaged, reducing the chances of disruptive behavior. Providing appropriate work that aligns with the student's skill level can help build their confidence, leading to a more positive classroom environment. Strength based recognition helps improve a positive student teacher relationship. Effective positive reinforcements tailored to rewards and recognition systems to individual students on their interests and their strengths, which maximizes involvement and engagement in the activity if they have buy in and are working for something that they are motivated by. Implement flexible interventions by adapting discipline approaches based on individual students' needs. Using techniques such as private check ins, positive redirection, or timeouts, or timeouts where you give them time away from the class to reflect on their behavior and what they need to return to baseline ensures that these interventions are effective. Flexibility in these interventions allows for personal responses and important consideration. Consistency is key still. When teachers are consistently enforcing classroom rules and expectations, students clearly understand what behaviors are expected. This leads to predictable learning environment where your students are going to feel safe and trust that the rules will be applied to everyone both fairly. This ultimately provides a positive classroom dynamic. Maintaining open communication with students provides opportunities for feedback and addresses concerns promptly, fostering a transparent and inclusive classroom atmosphere, actively acknowledging and praising positive behaviors reinforces desired actions, encourages students to continue engaging in these behaviors. Identifying and addressing potential causes of disruptive behaviors such as stress, personal challenges ensures that the interventions are effective and considerate of the individual circumstances. Things to think about are child's needs not being met. Are they hungry or tired? Do they have medical needs? Some children have underlying medical conditions that impact their behavior. Are they seeking attention? Students can act out to gain attention from both adults or their classmates. Power needs. Some students may act out in a way to establish power. Lack of confidence and skills. Students lacking confidence may act out to cover up their insecurities or inabilities to do the class assignment. De-escalation techniques. Consider a scenario of two upset students who may not be ready to work yet. The teacher can assist by taking a few minutes to help them return to a state of calm. This process should take or could take approximately 4 to 6 minutes and focus on the student. You can have your other students doing a warm-up activity or independent work. When the students enter your classroom, if you see that a student is unready or available for learning, you at the beginning of the class might want to connect with them and ask them if they'd like to make a choice, like going to the quiet corner to do journaling or a worksheet. This will give your student time to regain calmness. You can say things like, I noticed you're really upset. Let's work together on breathing slowly for a minute and manage your impulse. Direct a student to be aware of their thoughts and feelings and ask them what might be going on in their brain and their body right now. Tell me how you feel and what you're thinking. And if you are ready to focus, move forward. Have the student redirect their thoughts. They can say things like, I need a minute. Or you can say, it's time for you to take a minute. Close your eyes and breathe slowly and think about something that makes you happy. And then you can share, I know you told me before that you really love Grandma's fresh baked cookies. Imagine walking into Grandma's house and smelling those cookies. How does it make you feel? Can you taste them? Can you feel the warmth right now out of the oven? Provide positive feedback once your student returns to baseline and remains calm. Say, now open your eyes. How are you feeling? If you need more time to settle down, let me know. You should feel happy and excited about your work, and getting to this point. Give the student a little more time to refocus if they need that minute. You can say things like, take a minute and do something for yourself, or go for a walk and get a glass of water or get a drink of water and then come back. Have the student reflect for the future and say, next time you're feeling this way and I am not with you, can you tell me some things that you can do to change your thinking and behavior and get yourself regulated? By implementing these steps, teachers can effectively help students manage their emotions, leading to a more conducive learning environment. Finally, collaboration with parents. At this age, parents are starting to back up from their kids and they can see the end of the finish line of their parenting. However, it is really important to maintain open communication with families. This way, families can stay informed of student behaviors and facilitate a collaborative way to positively create change. By working together with parents and guardians, you can create a support network for the student to strengthen them. To effectively collaborate with parents, you are going to need to reach out first. Oftentimes, parents have the no news is good news kind of outlook. So if you have students that you need to reach out to, make sure that you have open and regular communication. You want to make sure that when you reach out to them, it's not always about things happening that are negative. I often get a parent when I call them, the first thing I say is, I want to let you know that so and so is safe and I wanted to tell you about. Then maybe I would add something positive or information that I needed to give them. Parents thank me for letting them know that their student is safe and also thank me for the way that I deliver the message in which they need to hear. Actively listen to parents as they talk. They will share their concerns and things that are going on in the house. They also have time to share positive updates about their child's progress. You can share with parents as well those positive updates. Often as educators, we are so busy with all of our students that we forget to reach out and say, hey, Johnny got an A today. But we could reach out and say, hey, Johnny hasn't turned in his homework for a week. Make sure that you involve the parents in active decision-making process. Respect their perspectives and work together to find a solution that best supports their child. Maintain a positive collaborative attitude throughout these things. Key strategies for effective parent communication include open collaboration, establish clear communication channels, and preferred methods from the parents, whether it's email, phone calls, or meetings. Initiate contact, not only when there is an issue, but to share positive updates and achievements alongside what needs to be improved. Be an active listener. Give that parent your full attention when you're speaking to them. Acknowledge their concerns and ask clarifying questions. Show empathy and understanding towards their perspective. Involve parents in decision making. Seek input and strategies to support the child's learning. Discuss potential solutions and challenges to those solutions. Involve them in choosing the best approach. Focus on a positive approach. Focus on strengths and areas of progress that their children need. Maintain positive and collaborative tone with all interactions. Respect their cultural differences. Be mindful of cultural variations in communication styles and family dynamics. Adapt your approach to best engage each family. Have feedback loops. Provide updates on their child's progress and academics regularly. Encourage parents to share feedback on what their children is learning at home. Address concerns promptly. Respond to any parental concerns or questions in a timely manner. Address issues directly and work towards solutions together.